Hello, welcome to part 2 of the Venetian Building in Line and Wash. In part 1 I put on the masking fluid in a few places. Now I'm going to add the ink. So there's various ways of doing that. You can use dip pen. By the way, I have another video explaining all this. So on my YouTube channel you should be able to find that. Different types of ink, different types of pen for line and wash. So you need a waterproof ink for this. So something like this calligraphy ink, waterproof. I put WP on there just to remind me that this is the waterproof one. You could do this with a dip pen, which I've got in here. Quite like the dip pens because you get different variation of the thickness of the line, depending on how hard you press on the nib and or if very light touch on the nib. You do run the risk of getting some blobs if the pen floods or anything like that, but I do like this method. Alternatively, I have a fountain pen which is filled with waterproof ink. Very nice pen. Again, you can press harder and softer depending on the thickness of lines that you want. What most people will use, however, and have to hand, is these type of pens. The Faber-Castell Artist Pitt Pen. These are waterproof. And you can see at the top here there's different thicknesses. So it's quite nice to have the different thicknesses so you can use different lines and different parts of your painting. This is fine, super fine, and excess is extra super fine. You can also get a brush pen, which is obviously thicker. So it's quite nice to use different ones. If you only have the one, that's absolutely fine. That's good for now. You know, you can go over your lines to make them thicker in places if you want to. So that can be done, but it's quite nice to have several. These are black. They come in other colours, so you can get them in sepia, which is also quite nice. Today I'm going to use black because that's, I think, what most people have. But sepia also really, really nice, and sepia coloured ink, which is the ink I showed you. This is a sepia one. Sepia or black, some other colour if you wish. Anyway, so here's the extra superfine. Now I'm going to go over the pencil lines, obviously. I'm going to try and vary the lines and break them a bit sometimes. So for instance, if I was drawing this line here, I might pause, leave a little gap, etc. Down here, maybe break the line a bit. If it wobbles a bit, that's fine. It's an old building. So again, you can press a bit harder, get a slightly thicker line. Sometimes I find if you turn the page, it's easier to draw a vertical line this way around. You'll find if it's a problem for you or not, but I sometimes find it easier to do it this way. Anywhere you want a thicker line, you can obviously swap to a thicker pen. This is the fine. So if I want a slightly thicker line along the bottom, I could use this one. As I say, I have 3 different ones here. You may find that when you come to some of these bars, you may need to use a ruler, because obviously these are going to be quite straight. All the stone lines, the brickwork, the wood, everything else is going to be a bit worn, a bit wobbly. These iron bars, you know, if you find it easier, for something like this, then I see no problem with using a ruler to help you. I love these little details, so I find it really nice to sketch these in with the pen. Maybe at the bottom there you could use your thicker pen, the fine or the super fine, in a few places. A slightly thicker line there, just maybe makes it a little bit more interesting. Maybe a thicker line here because there's going to be a bit of a shadow under there where this rendering has fallen off the building. Something like that. When you've done your drawing, you can decide if you actually want to put your shading in using your ink, or whether you just want to put your shading, or say shadows and things, in using your watercolour paint. Some people cross-hatch with their pen to create interest and shadow. Other people prefer just to use the watercolour to put in those shadows and those tones. For instance, if I wanted to put a bit of shading, where can I put it? Say under here. You could cross-hatch. With your pen. Alternatively, you could just do that with your watercolour. Or you can decide afterwards, put your watercolour on and then decide if you want to come back with the pen at a later stage. So obviously you get the idea of what I'm doing here. Again, let's use the fine to create a thicker line under there. So I don't think you need to watch me do the whole thing, you get the idea. So I will upload a video which will be a time lapse, so you can watch that if you want to watch the rest of this ink process. Okay, see you later. Thank you. Bye.